My name is Dylan. I'm 32 years old and live in Savannah, Georgia, where I work as an IT specialist for a startup no one outside our zip codes ever heard of. Our office has kombucha on tap, a standing ping pong table no one actually plays on, and a CEO who thinks synergy is a personality trait. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me busy. I've been married to Haley for just over 3.5 years. She's one of those people who make you believe in energy and auras and manifestation even when you're not sure you buy into any of it. She started as a yoga instructor, then slowly rebranded herself into a wellness consultant, the kind of coach who helps people realign their soul compass. At first, I teased her for using words like vibrational shift and divine self, but she had a charm about it, like she wasn't taking it too seriously either. Or at least, that's what I thought. That week, I was supposed to attend a 3-day tech conference in Seattle. Honestly, I wasn't looking forward to it. These things are basically a corporate masquerade, people pretending to network while silently raiding each other's laptops and scarfing down free hors d'oeuvres. Still, it was a chance to get out of town, clear my head, and maybe breathe in some different air. Haley hadn't said much about it, which was weird. Usually she'd tease me about nerd conventions or remind me to pack earplugs for snoring hotel roommates. But that night, nothing. She cooked dinner, barely touched hers, and disappeared upstairs around 9 o'clock with the vague excuse that she had a morning consult with a new client in Europe. No hug. No kiss. Not even a sarcastic "don't flirt with the Tech brothers." Just a quiet good night from the stairs that didn't feel like a goodbye at all. I stood there for a moment longer than I probably should have, listening to the soft padding of her feet across the bedroom floor. Something about the silence felt off, but I told myself she was just tired. I mean, we'd both been working a lot. Maybe this was just what married people turned into, two quiet bodies orbiting the same space, occasionally colliding for dinner and Netflix. The next morning, I was halfway through security at the airport when I got the alert. Flight 478 to Seattle canceled due to icy weather conditions in the Midwest. Classic. Delta offered a rebooking for later that night or a full refund. I chose the refund. Honestly, it felt like a sign. Since it was still early and I hadn't left town, I figured I'd head home and grab my work notebook. I'd left it on my desk, and while I had backups in the cloud, that little thing was more personal than practical. Old notes. Doodles. A list of passwords I probably shouldn't have written down. Plus, I thought maybe I'd surprise Haley with lunch. Her favorite sushi place had a midday deal she liked. I even considered texting her to see if she wanted anything, but something stopped me. When I pulled into our driveway, that's when I saw it. A black Tesla Model S. New. Gleaming. Parked halfway up like it belonged there, engine still ticking. At first, I thought maybe one of her clients had come for an in-home session or a family friend was visiting. But we didn't know anyone with a Tesla. And we weren't close enough to anyone who would just show up unannounced and park like that. Still, I didn't feel panic. Not yet. I got out of my car and walked up to the door, holding my breath for reasons I couldn't explain. I didn't barge in. I didn't throw the door open dramatically like you see in the movies. I just opened it quietly. I don't even think the knob made a sound. The house was still. Not silent exactly, but still. I heard soft voices, murmured laughter, and the clinking of ceramic on glass. The smell of freshly steeped herbal tea, lavender, and something citrusy hung in the air. Haley's favorite blend. I rounded the corner into the living room. There she was, a Haley standing in front of the coffee table wearing a lace pajama set I didn't recognize. It was cream-colored, delicate, something elegant and intentionally soft. She usually wore baggy old tees around the house. This was different. Across from her, comfortably sunken into my chair, the one I always used to read, watch football, nap on Sundays, sat a man. Mid-30s, sharp features, black shirt that looked too expensive for comfort, bare feet tucked casually under him like he'd been there a while. His arm rested along the back of the chair like he owned it. I didn't say anything. I don't even think they heard me at first. It was like I'd slipped into some alternate version of my life where I didn't exist. Haley finally looked up. She didn't flinch. Her expression didn't change. She didn't look guilty or even surprised. She just said, "Dylan, you're back early." There was a beat of silence. Then she gestured lazily toward the man. "This is Logan," she said. "He's helping me with my mindfulness project." Helping her. With her mindfulness project. The words hung in the air like incense smoke. Slow, heavy, unbelievable. Logan nodded politely, as if this were some casual social visit. "Hey man," he said. "Didn't know you were coming home. Didn't know you were coming home." As if he were supposed to be here, and I was the one who'd broken the spell. I don't remember walking away. I only remember the sound of the door clicking shut behind me as I stepped into my home office and locked the door. I sat down in my chair and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. My hands were cold. My chest was hollow. The worst part? They didn't chase after me. Not him. Not her. Not even a knock on the door. Just silence. After that morning, after Logan, and the lace and the stillness that followed, I didn't ask any questions. I didn't demand explanations. I didn't even bring it up. And Haley didn't offer anything. That somehow was worse than if she had tried to lie. She acted like nothing had happened, as if I'd imagined the whole thing. That night, she made quinoa bowls and asked if I wanted lemon in my water like always. I said no. She didn't press. Just hummed some ambient playlist and went on lighting candles like we hadn't just crossed some invisible line between husband and stranger. And Logan? He didn't come back, at least not that I saw. But his presence lingered. His scent. His smug little "hey man." I started noticing little things. A mug in the sink I hadn't used. A jacket folded over the back of the kitchen chair that wasn't mine. I think that's when the paranoia started. Or maybe it wasn't paranoia. Maybe it was just reality clawing its way through the wallpaper. The next morning, I left before she woke up. I sat in my car 2 blocks away with a gas station coffee and just watched. At exactly 8:32, she left the house in a flowy dress and oversized sunglasses. She looked peaceful, like a woman on her way to a brunch, not the wife of a man she just emotionally detonated. That became a habit. I'd watch from a distance on days I worked from home. I'd log into the smart home cameras when she left. Watch her lock the door. Watch her unlock it. I told myself I was protecting myself, that I just wanted the truth. But the truth wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself in texts or lipstick on a collar. It was subtle. A missing necklace. A new password on her phone. A half-used gift card to a spa I'd never heard of. Haley began to change. She started meditating more. Not the quiet, eyes-closed kind. The chanting, incense-burning, bowl-ringing kind. She said she was deepening her practice. She started following a guy named Bodhi Rebirth on Instagram and told me she was considering doing a soul realignment retreat in Sedona. I asked her if Logan was going. She smiled, just slightly, and said, "Maybe." I stopped sleeping properly. Every creak in the house felt suspicious. Every time she picked up her phone and tilted the screen away from me, I felt something inside me chip. I started keeping notes. Not in a spreadsheet or an app. On paper. Old school. Black ink. Dates. Times. Patterns. January 19th. Left at 6:12 p.m. Said she was meeting Kara. Kara posted a story from the beach with her fiancé. No Haley. January 23rd. Haley's mom texted, "Hope you two are having a relaxing weekend. I miss my daughter." She told me she was staying with her mom that night. January 28th. 2 wine glasses in the sink. She said she drank alone and forgot. Said she was journaling her inner feminine. It would have been laughable if it hadn't felt like my whole life was being rewritten behind my back. And still I said nothing, because I kept thinking, if I say it out loud, it becomes real. If I confront her, it forces the truth into the light, and maybe part of me wasn't ready for that yet. Maybe part of me hoped I was wrong, that I'd wake up and find out I'd misunderstood everything, that there was a logical explanation for Logan and the wine and the cryptic journal entries she started leaving half-visible around the house, like spiritual breadcrumbs. One night, I heard her talking in the other room. Low, soft. I crept closer to the door. She was pacing barefoot, whispering. Something about her aura, her expansion, and how she finally felt safe. Then, "He doesn't see me. Not really. He thinks I'm still that girl who wanted an herb garden and Sunday pancakes. But I've evolved." My heart pounded. I stepped away before I could hear more. I couldn't stand to know who was on the other end of the line. I didn't want to hear the name. Not yet. Instead, I did what I always do when my brain starts eating itself. I worked. Coded until my eyes burned. Reorganized cloud folders. I even started building a dumb side app just to distract myself. A relationship tracker. ironically enough, designed to flag red flags. I called it Trustfall. Never finished it. Because honestly, the biggest red flag was waving right in front of me and I was still pretending it wasn't real. Haley stopped touching me. No hugs. No casual arm drapes on the couch. No forehead kisses. She used to do this thing. When she was brushing her teeth, she'd lean back so her shoulder bumped mine while I was in the mirror next to her. Tiny. Thoughtless. Familiar. That stopped too. I told myself she was tired. Stressed. That maybe she just needed space. But space turned into absence. And absence turned into secrecy. And secrecy? That's when you know. One night, I stayed up later than usual. She was already asleep or pretending to be. Her phone buzzed once. Then again. Then silence. I picked it up. Screen locked. 4-digit code didn't work. She used to have it set to 0414, our anniversary. I tried 1031. Her birthday. Then 9999. Logan's license plate number. I only remembered it because it was weirdly symmetrical. Access denied. I put the phone back exactly how I found it. The next morning, she made lavender tea and talked about opening her own mind-body studio with Logan. I stared at her across the table and wondered how we got here, how the woman I married, who once got mad that I forgot her favorite donut flavor, now looked me in the eyes and talked about starting a business with the guy who lounged in my chair while she wore lingerie meant for someone else. But still, I said nothing. Because I didn't want to hear the answer I already knew. It happened on a Tuesday. That's the part that always sticks with me. Not a Friday. Not a weekend. Not a date marked by some dramatic milestone. Just a plain, gray Tuesday. The kind of day you forget unless something unforgettable happens. And in my case, it did. I was at work, holed up in my corner of the office with 2 monitors and a dying succulent named Bert. The day had been average: meetings, half a dozen bug reports, and an argument in the team Slack about whether or not to switch our deployment process. I wasn't really thinking about Haley. Or Logan. Or the strange orbit my life had fallen into. That was the cruel part about it. I'd started getting used to it. Used to her disappearing for breathwork workshops with names that sounded like indie bands. Used to her brushing off my offers to spend time together. Used to the way her eyes glazed over when I talked about anything remotely technical. We were 2 people in parallel lanes, living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, but never touching. Around 6:45, my phone lit up. Haley. I stared at it a beat longer than I should have, then answered. Hey, she said cheerfully. I'm at Vera Lounge Hotel. Logan's team is doing a business dinner thing, sort of a gratitude circle/networking hybrid. Do you want me to bring you anything to eat? Her voice was calm. Too calm. Like a script she'd read 5 times before dialing. I hesitated, then said, nah, I'm good. Leftovers in the fridge. Okay, she said. I'll see you late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Love you, I replied automatically. And then, I swear to God, she forgot to hang up. I should have ended the call myself. I should have clicked off and gone back to debugging a stupid back-end loop. But I didn't. I held the phone to my ear. Something in me told me to wait. A beat. 2. Then I heard it. A man's voice. Confident. Casual. Laughing. Lying to him again, he said. You're such an actress, Hale. Though for a body like that, I wouldn't go home either. More laughter. A soft, wet sound. A kiss. My breath caught. Then silence. Then the soft buzz of the call ending. I sat there for a long time staring at the screen. My thumb hovered over the Recent Calls tab. I opened the recording app on my phone, one I downloaded months ago and never used, and played it back. The whole thing lasted 23 seconds. That's all it took. 23 seconds to detonate my internal world. And the strangest part? I didn't feel the explosion. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Didn't even get angry. I just shut down. There wasn't a single spark inside me. Just this hollow, echoing feeling. Like someone had knocked the wind out of me and left a vacuum behind. I forwarded the recording to my work email, saved it under a fake file name, invoice_0327, and buried it in a folder full of archived documentation. Then I got up, walked to the break room, poured myself a cup of stale coffee, and drank it in silence. Nobody noticed. Back at my desk, I sat there, phone face down, hands folded, watching the blinking cursor on a blank terminal window. My body felt like it was made of static. I think someone asked me a question, something about the new API endpoints, but I just nodded. I could barely hear them over the blood rushing in my ears. I didn't go home right away. I stayed at the office until nearly 10. By then, the building was mostly empty. I just needed to stall. To think. To not go back to the house where she was pretending nothing had changed. I drove around the city, not really seeing anything. I passed the park where we used to have picnics. The donut shop she used to drag me to on Saturdays. The bookstore where we once spent an entire rainy afternoon arguing over which plant would be easiest to keep alive. It all felt fake now. Like someone else's memories. I parked outside a gas station and sat there, staring through the windshield while rain started to mist on the glass. My hands trembled, but I didn't feel cold. Just numb. Back home, everything was dark. Her car was in the driveway. She'd left the porch light on. Inside, I found her curled on the couch with a cup of tea and a book I didn't recognize. She was wrapped in a blanket, hair up, glasses on, like she hadn't just kissed another man while I listened in from 12 miles away. "Hey," she said, glancing up. "You stayed late." "Yeah," I said. "Busy day." She smiled. "You okay?" "Fine," I lied. She nodded, then looked back down at her book. Not a flicker of suspicion. Not a single crack in her performance. It was like she was so far down the rabbit hole of lies that pretending felt easier than pausing. I sat across from her and just watched for a while. She sipped tea, turned pages, occasionally underlined a passage with a pencil. I wondered if she had been with him right before this. If she'd come straight home from that hotel, rinsed him off, put on her "I'm a wife again" costume and carried on. She didn't seem afraid of being caught. That was the part that cut the deepest. I watched her for a while longer, then excused myself to take a shower. I stood under the hot water until the mirror fogged and my fingers pruned. My skin felt foreign. Later, lying in bed beside her, I heard her breathing slow and settle. I stared at the ceiling. And then I played the recording again. Just once. Just to remind myself that I hadn't imagined it. That what I was feeling was real. Because when someone breaks your world quietly, you don't always notice the pieces at first. They scatter in silence. Invisible. But once you hear the truth, unfiltered, undeniable, you can't unhear it. You can't unknow it. And from that moment forward, you're no longer in the life you thought you had. You're in the aftermath. After that night, after hearing his voice and her laugh and the sound of lips I'll never forget, I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or pack a bag or demand answers. I didn't even bring it up. Instead, I watched. The days that followed were quieter than they had any right to be. Too quiet. Like the house itself knew something was wrong but was too polite to say so. Haley acted normal. Too normal. She kissed me on the cheek in the morning. Made smoothies with flaxseed and frozen blueberries. Lit lavender incense before dinner. Her tone was calm. Her movements soft. She played the part perfectly, like she'd rehearsed it. Like she knew exactly how to act, just close enough to find that I wouldn't ask. But I already knew. So I stopped being her husband. And started being something else entirely, an observer. A quiet ghost inside a house I wasn't sure I lived in anymore. I watched how she tilted her phone away when she texted. How she'd smile at the screen, then swipe everything away the moment I walked into the room. I watched her disappear into client calls in the backyard, pacing barefoot, whispering things I couldn't hear. She started buying things. Little things at first, crystals, books with titles like Unleash the Inner Divine, oils labeled things like Grounding Blend and Open Heart. Then lingerie. 2 new sets. I found the packaging stuffed behind the trash bags in the garage. Self-love, she said when I asked about the lace bralette drying on the bathroom rack. Trying to reconnect with my body. She said it with a straight face. Like I hadn't heard her reconnecting with someone else. Every day felt like a performance I hadn't been invited to. And the worst part? She was good at it. She smiled. She laughed. She even left sticky notes on my computer again, tiny affirmations like, "You've got this today." They used to mean something. Now they felt like a joke. I didn't touch her. Didn't reach for her in bed. Didn't kiss her forehead when she curled into her pillow and mumbled goodnight. She didn't ask why. I think she was relieved. One night, she stayed in the bath for almost an hour. I was supposed to be downstairs working, but something pulled me toward the bedroom. I found her phone on the nightstand, face down but unlocked. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I looked around the room where we'd made plans, where we'd shared secrets, where we used to stay up too late watching dumb shows just to avoid sleep. Now it felt like someone else's room. Like it had been dressed up to look like our life, but none of it fit anymore. I turned my attention to the wine glasses on the vanity. 2 of them. Half full. Red. "You had a wine night?" I asked when she came out later in her robe, cheeks flushed. She didn't blink. "Yeah," she said. "Just needed to unwind." I was reading. I stared at the glasses. Both of them. She didn't miss a beat. I poured one and didn't like the taste. Poured a second. I nodded. And something in me snapped, not loudly, not all at once. Just a soft, final click. The kind of quiet where you realize the door is already closed. From that moment on, I stopped waiting for the truth. I knew it wouldn't come from her. At least not in words. Instead, it came in fragments, patterns she didn't think I noticed. Like how she started showering late at night and washing her hair even when she didn't have anywhere to go the next day. Like the slight tremor in her hand when she'd get a message during dinner. Like the smell on her clothes, faint, not mine. One day, I pulled open the drawer where we kept extra chargers and cables. Tucked inside was a hotel key card. Vera Lounge. The same place she'd said Logan was hosting that gratitude circle. My hands didn't shake. My pulse didn't spike. I just stared at it for a long time. Then I put it back. Because I didn't need more proof. She was no longer trying to hide it. Not really. She wasn't afraid of being caught because she didn't think I would catch her. Because I hadn't yet. Because I hadn't said a word. I was the silent one now. The still one. The background extra in the movie of her life. And in some twisted way, I think that gave her permission to keep going. To keep lying. To keep dressing the wound like it wasn't bleeding. She once told me she believed in karmic echoes, that energy doesn't disappear, it just bounces back when you least expect it. I wondered late at night if she ever felt the echo of what she was doing. If it stung. If it haunted her the way her voice haunted me. Most nights, I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the last time we were really us. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't believe that version of us ever really existed anymore. And when the person you love starts to feel like a stranger in your own house, that's when you know it's already over. It happened quietly. Not with a bang. Not with a dramatic confrontation or a found earring on the floor. Just a flicker of carelessness on her part and weakness on mine. It was a Wednesday night. Cold outside. The kind of cold that creeps through the cracks of old window frames and makes you hug your knees without realizing it. Haley had fallen asleep on the couch, a blanket around her shoulders, soft music playing through the speaker, some ambient playlist she liked called Deep Soul Soothing. Her phone was in her hand, unlocked, screen still lit up. It was stupid, really. One of those moments that could have passed unnoticed. But I saw it. The message preview. A name I didn't recognize, Dina, followed by, still smelling like you, wish I didn't have to sneak out so fast. Dina. She didn't know anyone named Dina. My heart didn't race. It didn't even flinch. It just slowed. Like my body was bracing for impact before the impact came. I waited 5 minutes. 10. Her breathing stayed even. A soft snore escaped her once. I reached out gently and slid the phone from her fingers. Still unlocked. I stared at it, thumb trembling just slightly above the screen. Then I tapped the message. It wasn't from Dina. That was just the contact name. The real sender's number was unsaved. But the message thread? It was a universe. A universe I didn't know existed. A timeline that ran parallel to mine, filled with soft lies and low-light hotel rooms, and in asterisk Macy I thought was mine alone. The first name that came up was Logan, obviously. But there were others. Sean. Jared. Lunch on me next time, beautiful. Still thinking about your hands? Wish I could have stayed longer. Photos. Hotel selfies. Some tasteful, some not. Voice memos. Short ones. Her whispering things I didn't want to hear but couldn't stop listening to. Her laughing in a way she hadn't with me in months. It wasn't just physical. That was what gutted me. It was emotional. Tender. Secret. There was one message that stopped me cold. He still thinks I'm at yoga. You make me feel real again. Yoga. She always said that's where she went when she needed clarity. And I believed her. The worst part came when I scrolled to her chat with Jared. There, nestled in the middle of the thread, was a photo. Our bedroom. My pillow in the background. The soft golden light of the lamp I'd bought her for our anniversary. And the timestamp? November 18th. Our anniversary night. She'd told me she was going on a girls' trip. Spa weekend, she said, texting me a photo of a mimosa and a fuzzy robe with the hotel name cropped out. I felt something in my chest tear. Not crack. Not break. Tear. I locked the phone. Placed it back in her hand. She stirred slightly and turned over. I stood up, walked upstairs to our bedroom and stared at the dresser. The top drawer held all the anniversary cards we'd written each other over the years. We used to handwrite them. No printed ones. It was a tradition. I opened the drawer. They were still there. A neatly folded collection of a love that had quietly rotted. I didn't cry. Not even close. I just felt empty. Like the truth had gutted me clean. And then I knew what I had to do. It wasn't rage. It wasn't vengeance. It was something colder. Sharper. Clarity. The next morning I packed a bag. Not a suitcase. A backpack. Just the essentials, my laptop, my notebook, a folder of documents, and 2 hoodies that didn't smell like her. No framed photos. No anniversary gifts. Not the mug she gave me on our 2nd year that said you plus me equals codependent and cozy. I left it all behind. I didn't write a note. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even close the door loudly. But I did hear her voice as the door clicked shut. Dylan? Then the sound of her footsteps on the stairs. Then the panic in her voice as she saw the backpack. Dylan. Wait, what's happening? She came running barefoot onto the porch wearing one of my old college sweatshirts, hers now, by default. Please, stop, she cried. Talk to me. Please, what's going on? I turned around only once. She was crying. Really crying. Eyes wide, lips trembling, the kind of cry that begs for a second chance. You broke this, I said softly. Not me. She collapsed on the steps as I walked to the car. Hands on her face. Sobbing. Screaming my name. I didn't look back again. Because once you've read the last page of the story, you don't reread the ending just to hurt yourself. I left the city before sunrise. No plan, no hotel reservation, no family waiting with open arms. Just the road and a quiet engine and a version of myself I barely recognized in the rearview mirror. It took 12 hours and 3 gas stations before I stopped in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Why Cheyenne? No reason. It was cold, quiet, and anonymous. That's what I needed. A place that didn't know me, didn't expect anything from me. I found a room above a woodworking shop. The guy who ran it, Don, was an old vet who barely asked questions. He let me stay cheap if I helped sand tabletops and rewire his busted POS system. I fixed up antique chairs during the day and sat by the window at night with a cup of black coffee, watching a town that didn't care who I used to be. No one called. No one messaged. Except her. Haley. First it was texts. Then voicemails. Then longer, rambling emails full of fragmented apologies and spiritual metaphors about wounded energy and navigating past lives. I didn't answer. Not once. But I kept the number. Maybe out of habit. Maybe out of some tiny, stupid part of me that needed to see it through. Then, 3 days after I arrived in Cheyenne, my phone rang again. Her name lit up the screen. I was sitting by the window watching snow drift over an empty street. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me answer. Dylan, she said, her voice shaking. It's me. I didn't say anything. Just listened. I need to tell you something, she said. I'm pregnant. That word hit like a shovel to the chest. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. It's yours, she continued. It is. I know how it sounds, but I haven't been with anyone else since that night. She paused as if waiting for me to say something. I didn't. I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I thought you should know. If you come back, we can talk. I want to try. I want to fix this.